My name is Vicky C. Toomey, and I'm 29 years old. I want you two to meet so I can finally decide who I should choose, Evan said after inviting his ex-girlfriend to our anniversary dinner. I said, "Let me help you decide," and left the restaurant. His ex followed me out 5 minutes later. He texted us both all night. Neither of us responded. I honestly thought I was the one. That sounds humiliating now, sitting here with a cold drink and a strange, clean kind of freedom I have not felt in years. But at the time, I was all in. Evan and I had been together exactly 2 years, or at least I thought we had been. To understand why that dinner felt like a scene from someone else's nightmare, you need to understand who I was in his life. I was the safe woman. I work in risk analysis, make good money, own my apartment, and keep a retirement account that would probably bore most people to sleep. I do not scream. I do not throw things. I pay bills on time. I remember birthdays. I treat love like something you protect, not something you perform for an audience. Evan said he loved that about me. He called me his anchor after a messy 20s spent dating artists and visionaries, which usually meant people who borrowed his car, disappeared for days, and came back with dramatic apologies. The biggest ghost in that graveyard was Jasmine, his ex-girlfriend. He broke up with her 6 months before meeting me, but she never really left the room. According to Evan, their relationship was chaos wrapped in chemistry. She was a singer, supposedly brilliant, definitely unstable. She lied, flirted with other men, vanished when things got serious. But whenever Evan talked about her, his voice changed. His eyes got sharper, younger, too alive. "You're good for me, Vicky," he would say, squeezing my hand. "Jasmine was an addiction. You're healthy." I took that as a compliment. I should not have. About a month before our anniversary, Evan became strange. His phone was always face down or in his hand. He started using phrases that sounded stolen from podcasts. Finding my truth, honoring my emotional complexity, optimizing my future. He said he felt stifled by routine, the same routine that paid half his weekend trips, kept my kitchen stocked with his favorite coffee, and gave him a quiet place to land when his big feelings exhausted him. I asked if he wanted to talk. He said he was processing. I told myself love required patience. For our 2-year anniversary, I decided to go big. I wanted to remind him that stable did not mean boring. I booked a table at l'Ostre Noir, the kind of place with velvet chairs, dim lighting, and menus without prices, where the hostess says your name like it matters. It was going to be expensive, easily $1,000 night. I bought him a vintage watch he had been stalking online for months. I was ready to recommit. I was ready to say, without embarrassment, that I wanted a future. I arrived 15 minutes early. I checked the wine list. I adjusted my bracelet. I watched the heavy oak doors every few seconds, feeling that fluttery nervousness you get when you still believe someone is worth hoping for. At 7:30 sharp, Evan walked in wearing the navy suit I loved on him. My heart lifted automatically. Then I saw the woman behind him, Jasmine. I recognized her instantly from old photos and from the way Evan had described her too vividly for someone supposedly in his past. Leather jacket, red lipstick, dark hair falling loose around her shoulders, looking completely out of place among the polished couples and anniversary reservations. My first thought was that it had to be a coincidence. Maybe they had run into each other outside. Maybe she was there with someone else. But they kept walking together toward my table. I stood up slowly. "Evan, what is going on?" He did not kiss me. He did not even look guilty. He gestured toward the empty chair. "Sit down, Vicky." Jasmine looked just as confused as I felt. "Evan, what is this? You said you wanted to talk about us." "This is Vicky," he said, taking the seat across from both of us. "My girlfriend of 2 years." Jasmine's face went blank. You're what? You told me you were single. You said you'd ended things with the boring finance girl months ago. I said I was done with the dynamic, Evan corrected, smoothing his napkin over his lap like a man preparing for a business meeting. And I am. The waiter approached, sensed the tension, and froze beside the table. Why is your ex-girlfriend at our anniversary dinner? I asked. Evan looked between us with terrifying calm. Because I'm at a crossroads. Vicky, you offer stability, loyalty, a future. Jasmine offers passion, chemistry, history. I'm tired of wondering if I settled for safety with you, and I'm tired of wondering if the fire with her is worth the risk. So I decided the only way to make an informed decision is to see you both side by side. The silence was so heavy, even the waiter stopped breathing. I want to know who fights for me, Evan said. And in that moment, staring at the man I had loved for 700 days, I felt something inside me detach. Not heartbreak, not jealousy, just a cold, irreversible disgust. Jasmine stared at Evan like she was trying to decide whether to laugh, slap him, or leave before anyone in the restaurant recognized her. You brought me here for what? She said. A comparison? A girlfriend audition? Her voice was low, but the tables closest to us had gone quiet enough that even the silverware seemed embarrassed. Evan did not flinch. That was the part that made my stomach turn. He actually looked proud of himself, like he had invented some brave new form of emotional honesty. I know this is unconventional, he said, folding his hands on the white tablecloth. But I need clarity. Vicky, you are stable. You offer loyalty, financial security, consistency. You make life make sense. Then he turned to Jasmine. And you have the fire, the chemistry, the history. The part of me that feels alive. I stood there looking at him, waiting for the man I loved to come back into his own eyes. He didn't. All I saw was someone ranking two women like investment options. Jasmine let out a sharp laugh. You told me you were single. I told you I was emotionally finished, Evan said. That is not the same thing, I said. He looked annoyed, like I was interrupting the rules of his little ceremony. Vicky, please sit down. I want both of you to talk. I want to see who understands me better, who is willing to fight for this. The waiter hovered near the table with his notepad, pale and trapped. I almost felt bad for him. He had probably expected a quiet anniversary dinner with expensive wine and a dessert candle. Instead, he had stumbled into a romantic hostage situation. You want us to fight for you? I asked. Evan's mouth curved slightly, satisfied. He thought he had finally found my jealousy. He thought I would cry, argue, prove passion by lowering myself in public. I want you to show me why I should choose you. I looked at Jasmine. She looked mortified. Not triumphant, not smug, mortified. In that instant, something became clear. She was not my enemy. She was another person Evan had dragged into the theater because he needed an audience for his confusion. I reached into my purse and pulled out my wallet. I took out a $20 bill and placed it beside the untouched breadbasket. For the waiter, I said calmly. Evan blinked. What are you doing? Helping you decide. His smile faltered. I buttoned my coat slowly, because if I moved too quickly, I might start shaking. I withdraw my application. Pick her. Jasmine's eyes widened. Evan stared at me like his brain had hit a wall. Vicky, don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being accurate. My voice was steady, loud enough now for nearby tables to hear. I am not a contestant. I was your partner. If after 2 years you need to sit me beside your ex-girlfriend to decide whether I'm enough, then I already have my answer. Don't walk away from me, he said, finally losing that polished calm. I looked at him one last time, trying to find grief. There was almost none. Just the clean disgust of realizing I had mistaken neediness for depth. Good luck, Evan. You're going to need someone willing to compete for a man who thinks humiliation is honesty. That person is not me. Then I turned and walked out. At the host stand, the manager approached carefully. He had clearly seen enough to understand this was not a normal date gone wrong. Ma'am, is everything all right? No, I said softly. But it will be. The reservation is under my card. Please remove it from the file immediately. I am leaving, and I will not be responsible for anything ordered at table 4. He nodded with professional sympathy. Of course. We'll need a new method of payment from the remaining guests before service continues. That sounds fair. I'm sorry about your evening. I glanced back once. Evan was standing now, half turned toward me, furious and stunned. Jasmine had not moved. She looked like someone waking from a bad dream in public. Don't be sorry, I told the manager. It was very educational. Outside, the cold night air hit my face, and I breathed like I had been underwater for years. The valet hurried to get my car. City lights shimmered across the wet pavement. I expected to break down. Instead, I felt lighter, as if some invisible weight had slid off my shoulders and shattered on the sidewalk behind me. Then the restaurant doors opened hard. I braced myself for Evan's voice, for accusation, for some final performance. But it was Jasmine running toward me in heels, leather jacket flapping behind her. Wait, she called. Please, I swear to God, I didn't know. Jasmine stopped a few feet away from me in the valet circle, breathing hard, one hand pressed to her chest like she had run out of a fire. I didn't know, she said again. I swear, Vicky, I didn't know about you. Not like this. I looked at her carefully. Up close, she was not the dangerous fantasy Evan had kept polished in the back of his mind. She was just a woman with smudged lipstick, angry eyes, and humiliation rising in her face. What did he tell you? That he was single, she said immediately. He texted me yesterday saying he needed closure. He said he had ended things with the woman he'd been seeing because she was stable but soulless. She winced. I'm guessing that was supposed to mean you. I laughed once, not because it was funny, but because the insult was so lazy it almost felt insulting to his intelligence. He told me tonight was our anniversary dinner. He never mentioned you. Jasmine looked back at the restaurant doors like she expected Evan to appear and somehow make the lie larger. He told me we were meeting so he could apologize for how things ended. He said he had been thinking about us, about the old fire. She rubbed both hands over her face. God, I feel stupid. You're not stupid, I said. You were cast. Her eyes flicked to mine. What? He wrote roles for both of us. You were the passion. I was the future. And apparently he expected us to perform until he felt chosen enough. For a second, neither of us spoke. The valet brought my car around, but I could not quite make myself get in yet. I looked down the street and saw the neon sign for a dive bar 2 blocks away, the Rusty Bell, buzzing red in the misty air. It looked sticky, cheap, and exactly unlike the restaurant behind us. I'm getting a beer, I said. I need to wash this night out of my mouth. Jasmine gave a short, exhausted laugh. Can I come? I shrugged. You're buying. The Rusty Bell smelled like fried food, spilled beer, and old wood. A jukebox in the corner was playing something loud and forgiving. We slid into a dark booth, 2 women who had been strangers 15 minutes earlier and were now connected by the bizarre trauma of being auditioned for the same man. Jasmine ordered us beers and a basket of fries. I took off the earrings I had worn for Evan and dropped them into my purse like they belonged to a different version of me. We compared notes. The picture that formed was worse than either of us expected. Evan had spent 2 years making Jasmine sound like an uncontrollable storm, then spent the past week making me sound like a dead room with good credit. He had told her I did not understand desire. He had told me she did not understand loyalty. He had turned our real flaws and real strengths into props. He used to compare me to you, I said. Jasmine would be spontaneous. Jasmine would understand my creative side. Jasmine snorted. Creative side? He once called my music an expensive hobby with applause. He called you a singer with fire. He hated my shows unless there were people there he wanted to impress. She took a long drink. He used to compare me to his mother, then his boss, then whatever woman made him feel inferior that month. I leaned back against the booth, so he didn't want either of us. No, Jasmine said. He wanted a woman with your bank account, my chaos, his mother's patience, and no needs of her own. That was so accurate, I almost toasted her. Then the phone started, mine first. Evan, decline. Then Jasmine's. Evan, decline. We looked at each other and placed both phones face up on the table like lab specimens. My messages came in first. Where did you go? This isn't funny. Then, the manager is asking for a card. You seriously removed payments on our anniversary? Then, Vicky, come back. I was being honest. Isn't honesty what you always wanted? Jasmine's phone buzzed. Why did you follow her? Then, don't leave me here. I don't have my wallet. Then, it was always you, Jasmine. I panicked. Come back and let's leave her out of this. We stared at the screens. He was telling me he needed to talk. He was telling her she was the one. He was alone at a $1,000 restaurant without a wallet and still trying to direct the scene. Around 9, the tone changed. To me, you're insecure. I gave you a chance to show passion and you ran away. To Jasmine, you're as unstable as ever. Enjoy your loser life. Jasmine laughed so hard she had to wipe her eyes. He's really bad at losing. He's never had to lose both options at once, I said. We stayed until closing. After the first hour, we barely talked about Evan. We talked about music, work, terrible dates, the weird loneliness of being almost 30 and still learning where self-respect begins. Jasmine was not my rival. She was funny, bruised, and sharper than Evan had ever allowed her to be in his stories. When we stepped outside, she held out her hand. Sorry about your anniversary. I shook it. Best anniversary I ever had. It's the night I got my life back. I did not go home that night. I booked a hotel room across town, ordered fries I barely ate, and sat on the edge of the bed in my anniversary dress with my phone face down beside me. Evan kept calling until after midnight. Then came the texts. First came outrage, then accusation, then the wounded poetry he used whenever he wanted to make cruelty sound deep. You failed the test of love, he wrote. You proved you're incapable of passion. A few minutes later, don't come home tonight. I'm changing the locks. I actually laughed out loud at that one. It was my apartment. His name was not on the lease. The audacity would have been almost charming if it had not been attached to a man who had just invited his ex-girlfriend to our anniversary dinner, like I was applying for a promotion. The next morning, I woke up feeling strangely calm. Not happy, not healed, just clear. I texted my landlord and explained that I had a guest who might refuse to leave and that I might need help changing the locks later that day. Then I sent Evan one message. We are done. You have until 12 p.m. to remove your things from my apartment. Anything left after 12:01 will be packed and placed outside. Do not contact me again. He responded with a paragraph about how I was overreacting to a relationship exercise. Then another about how modern love required emotional courage. Then another calling me cold, small, insecure, and too corporate to understand desire. I did not answer. I went to work, closed spreadsheets, attended 2 meetings, and felt more productive than I had in months because half my mind was no longer busy managing Evan's feelings. At 12:30, I came home with my younger brother Milo and two of his friends. Milo is 6'3", built like a refrigerator, and has the emotional range of a locked filing cabinet when someone hurts me. He carried empty boxes upstairs without asking questions. When we opened the door, Evan was sitting on my couch in yesterday's suit pants and a t-shirt, waiting for Act 2 of his drama. He stood quickly. "Finally," he said. "Can we talk like adults now?" "No," I said. "Pack." His face shifted. He looked past me at Milo and the two friends. That was when he realized the audience had changed. There would be no screaming match, no tearful reconciliation, no final monologue where he convinced me I had misunderstood his genius. Just boxes. He tried everything in 2 hours. Anger first. "You're throwing away 2 years!" Then grief. "I thought you loved me." Then seduction, which was embarrassing to watch. Then blame. "Jasmine manipulated this." That one made me stop taping a box. "Jasmine followed me out because you lied to both of us," I said. "Do not try to make another woman responsible for your choices." He tried to hug me. Milo stepped between us without a word. Evan tried to slap a box out of my hands. One of Milo's friends quietly picked it up and kept packing. By 2:45, Evan's things were in the hallway. He stood by the elevator, eyes red, jaw tight. "You'll regret this," he said. "You'll never find anyone like me." "That's the plan," I said, and closed the door. 6 months later, my life is almost boring in the best way. I'm dating someone new. His name is Daniel. He is a physical therapist, makes terrible pancakes, remembers his wallet when we go to dinner, and has never once described humiliating me as a growth opportunity. Jasmine and I are not best friends, but we text sometimes, mostly memes, occasionally updates. There is a strange comfort in knowing someone else saw the same mask slip. Evan tried to spin the story online. He posted a long video about being abandoned by two emotionally unavailable women who could not handle a man exploring his truth. It might have worked if Jasmine had stayed quiet. She didn't. She commented, "You invited your ex-girlfriend to your anniversary dinner and asked us both to compete for you. We left because that is unhinged. Also, you still owe me for the Uber." Her comment got more likes than his video. He deleted it within an hour. Last week, my doorbell camera sent me a notification while Daniel and I were making dinner. I opened the app and saw Evan on my porch, thinner, tired, holding flowers like a man who had learned nothing except that props were useful. He rang the bell. "Vicky," he said toward the camera, "please, I miss you. I don't want Jasmine. I don't want anyone else. I just want my anchor back." I pressed the microphone button. "There is no anchor here, Evan. Just a woman who is happy you're gone. Leave or I'm calling the police." He stared at the camera, waiting for the old me to open the door. I closed the app and set my phone face down. Daniel handed me a glass of wine and asked, "Everything okay?" I smiled. "Wrong number." And for the first time in a long time, that felt completely true.